In the long arc of human history, one moment stands apart, the day the storm came. The skies split open, the earth gushed from beneath, and a flood swallowed an entire civilization in its rebellion. Only one ship floated above the chaos, the Ark of Noah. Within it were the few who believed, and among them, humanity's future. But when the waters receded and the ark rested on the mountain, a question remained that few ask today. Who were the ones that walked back into the world? Was it only Noah and his 3 sons who repopulate the earth, as later traditions claimed? Or is the Quran telling us a deeper story, one that includes others who were on the ark, whose lineages would continue, and from whom even the likes of Abraham, would later emerge? Allah says in Surah Al-Isra, "O descendants of those we carried with Noah," reminding the children of Israel not that they come from Noah himself, but from those who were carried with him. Later, in Surah As-Safat Allah adds, "And we made his descendants the ones who remained." Yet even here, the Quran doesn't limit survival only to Noah's sons. It tells us that his lineage continued, but not that others perished completely. The subtle balance between these verses opens up the possibility that more than just Noah's sons walked into the new world, and some of them became the ancestors of later prophets. Then, centuries later, another verse is even more light. In Surah Al-Hadid Allah declares, "We certainly sent Noah and Ibrahim, and placed in their descendants the prophethood and the book." This changes the story. It tells us there were 2 prophetic lineages preserved on earth. The line of Ibrahim, from which came Musa, Isa, and finally Muhammad. And the line of Noah, from which perhaps unknown prophets carried the legacy of divine books, now lost or forgotten. But here's the twist, the Quran never confirms that Ibrahim came from Noah's sons. Instead, it honors those carried on the ship, allowing us to consider that Ibrahim's ancestors were among the righteous survivors, but not of Noah's direct bloodline. And in all of this, one truth becomes clear. We must rely on what the Quran says, not what is assumed from later traditions, tafsir based on Israelite, Judeo-Christian legends, or unsupported genealogies. Even great scholars like Ibn Kathir sometimes use narrations without clear evidence from the Prophet or his companions. This video is a journey back to the original script, what the Quran itself says about who survived, whose line continued, and what legacy they carried. Along the way, we will explore the role of Hazrat Khalid, Zulkarnain, and the mysterious prophets whose stories remain mostly hidden, but whose presence is confirmed by the divine words of Allah himself. Who survived the flood according to the Quran? The Quran clearly states that Allah saved Noah, and those who were with him on the Arkansas. However, it never limits the survivors to just Noah's 3 sons. In Surah Al-Isra, Allah addresses the descendants of those carried with Noah, not specifically his sons. This leaves room for the understanding that the survivors included others as well, from whose lineage important prophets would later come. The lineage of Ibrahim from the Ark, but not necessarily from Noah's sons. Ibrahim is a pivotal prophet from whom many others descended, including the Musa and ultimately Muhammad. The Quran suggests that Ibrahim's lineage was among those saved in the Ark, but it never says he came from Noah's direct sons. Instead, Ibrahim is from the group of survivors carried on the ship, pointing to a broader family than just Noah's immediate children. 2 prophetic lines, Noah and Ibrahim Surah Al-Hadid mentions that both Noah and Ibrahim were sent by Allah and that in their descendants, Allah placed prophethood and the book. This means that 2 distinct prophetic lineages existed, one descending from Noah another from Ibrahim This also implies that books or revealed scriptures existed in Noah's lineage as well, though these may have been lost over time. The book in Noah's lineage. The Quran's reference to the book in the descendants of Noah indicates the presence of divine in his lineage. This strengthens the understanding that Noah's descendants did not only physically survive but also carried a spiritual legacy, which possibly included prophets with revealed books that history has not preserved. Islamic narrations and some traditional stories suggest that notable figures such as Hazrat Khalid, and Zulkarnain, come from the lineage of Na-As. Some narrations even mention them descending from Ham-As, one of Nuz-As sons. According to popular tradition, Ham's grave is said to be in present-day Pakistan, which hints at the geographical spread of Nuz-As descendants and their spiritual influence. This connection further illustrates that Nuz-As lineage continued to play a significant role in the spiritual history of humanity. The importance of relying on Quranic evidence over later narrations. While scholars like Ibn Kathir and others have offered tafsir based on Israelite, Judeo-Christian stories, it is essential to differentiate between what the Quran explicitly states and what is added from external sources. The Quran itself remains the primary source, and any genetic claims must align with its message and the teaching authentics of the Prophet Muhammad. Conclusion: returning to the divine narrative. The story of survival after the flood is more complex than often assumed. The Quran shows that the survivors included more than just Nuz-As sons. From them came two major prophetic lineages, those of Na-As and Ibrahim-As, both blessed with prophethood and revealed books. Figures like Hazrat Khalid and Zulkarnain, possibly from Nuz-As lineage and linked to Ham-As, whose grave is said to be in Pakistan, highlight the wide-reaching legacy of the survivors. Importantly, the lineage of Na continues to play a role by always supporting and helping the Al-Bayt, the family of the Prophet Muhammad. This reminds us to rely primarily on the Quran, the true source, rather than later traditions. The story of Na-As and his survivors teaches us about faith, lineage, and the ongoing guidance Allah provides to humanity. This video is brought to you by The Lost Archive of Islam. Subscribe now to rediscover the signs before the end.